All right, I apologize for that. Video got cut off, so we're going to start again at number 27, which is where we left off. So 27 was 336 plus 258. I'm going to round that to 340 and 260. The reason I do that, I know 40 and 60 together make 100. So 3 and 2 is going to give me 500, and then 40 and 60 is going to give me another 100. So that is 600, and I say yes, that answer is reasonable. Okay. Now 468 minus 158. Again, I want to make these easy. So 68 is close enough to 60, and so is 58. So I'm going to make that 460 minus 160, and that would give me 300 right on the dot, and that is pretty close to 280. So I'm going to say yes, that is reasonable. Number 29, I'm going to say 440 again, because I see the next answer has a 40 in it too. And even though it is close to 150, again, when we estimate, we're allowed to move a little bit. It doesn't tell us that we need to round to the nearest 10 or 100. So I'm going to move that down, and I'm going to say plus 140. And that gives me 580. So that is quite a ways from 536. I'm going to say no, that is not a reasonable answer. Okay. The next one, this one I'm going to round to hundreds, simply because I know, again, I'm going to move down for this one and up for this one. So we're going to kind of even out a little bit. And I'm going to say 700 minus 300, and that gives me 400. And that is not reasonable because 400 is not close to 590. So no there. The next one I'm going to do is going to be my 25. So the ones that we talked about yesterday, 249 is really close to 250. I'm going to add that to 575 just because the 5s are easy, or 25s are easy for me to work with, multiples of 25. So 50 and 75 gives me 125 together. 2 and 5 gives me 700. So together, these two give me 825. Again, if you add differently, if you round it to a 10 or to 100 to make it easier for you, as long as you know that or get something close to that and say, yes, that is a reasonable answer, it's really okay. And the last one is 32, so 542 and 167. Again, these are close enough to 50s for me to round to that 50. So I'm going to say 550. I went up a little bit, 167, and I'm going to subtract 150. So 50 and 50 is zeros. 5 minus 1, that gives me 400. So that's not really that close to 475. I'm saying no, that is not reasonable there. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our last page, which is talking with a puzzled penguin. So it says, dear math students, that's you. Today my teacher asked me to estimate the answer to this problem. Mrs. Smith's class brought in 384 cans for a food drive. Mr. Alvarez's class brought in 524 cans. About how many cans did the two classes bring in? So he rounded 384 to 300, and he rounded 524 to 500, and got 800. About 800 cans are brought in. So he says, is my answer correct? If not, please correct my work and tell me what I did wrong. So write an answer to the puzzled penguin. And I would say you need to say something about the 8 being way closer. If you're going to round to 100, you would definitely round to 400 rather than 300. And then add 500, and your answer would be closer to 900. Right? So write in complete sentences something along those lines. Give a complete answer for that. And then the very last little bit, estimate the number of objects. So jar D has 100 beans. Estimate how many beans are in the other jars. So jar D is 100 beans. So we said this, I'd make a line right across here. And when we estimate, we're going to use simple numbers like multiples of 10 usually. So if this is 100, okay, we say about here to here would be 100. So if I just say another 100 would be about here. And then another 100 would be probably about here. So it looks like those lines are about equal length from each other. So my first one that I can see is jar C is right about 300. So if this is 100, this would be 200, and jar C would be about 300. Jar B ends up being right about 200. Okay. I'm going to put 200 there. And jar A looks like it's about half of my 100 line. So half of 100 then would be 50. And if you're close to that, those would be some reasonable estimates. Okay. And the last part, so round each number to the nearest 10. 83 is going to round to 80. That 3 tells us to round down. 98, we're going to round up. Remembering hundreds are multiples of 10, so 100 is the nearest 10. The 5 tells us that we need to round up. 245 to 250. And then 362 tells us we need to round down. So that 2 tells us we need to round down to 360. So those are your workbook pages today. Go ahead and get started on your homework and let myself or whoever is your math teacher right now let them know if you have any questions.